Yo, what is going on, guys? Miguel here. So today we're coming at you with a video on lead capture and lead conversion. Okay, so it's not just related to door knocking. Right now, more or less, I'm gonna give examples of when I am out door knocking. Right, just gonna fix this a little bit so it's a bit more centered on me. Yeah, but again, it's kind of relates to everything, right? Because you're gonna hit some warmer lead sources that are gonna be, like expired listings, for example. That's as warm as it gets. They're pretty well ready to go. They're hand raisers, right? At the same time, not all those people might be ready, right? Or you might meet some people on the way that are just like, maybe I put my plans off for now. That's okay. There is a follow up process for every single one of those people, and I'm going to walk you guys through how I do this, right? And it's all the same, right? For door knocking, for cold calling, you can approach this all the same. This has worked very well for me door knocking, and it helps me become the obvious choice when it is time for them to buy or sell. Okay, so if you guys have never been here before, of course, my name is Miguel. I'm a real estate agent that's licensed out in London, Ontario, Canada. I've only been licensed since April 2022, so here in Canada at least, that is when the market started shifting and we've seen interest rates go up. So I'm only adjusted to this market, right? I'm currently in the top 20 selling agents in all the city right now. I've got a full-time assistant working for me. If you guys have any referrals that you need to send out here, shoot them my way. I service London and about top end an hour outside. So happy to help your clients, right? So let's start off with number one. So there's going to be three subcategories. Know your numbers, what are you saying, like your closing techniques, your script, stuff like that, and how you're closing, build a report. And lastly, number three is going to be how you convert the leads, right? So how you're going to be following up with them. So let's start off with knowing your numbers. Okay, so when you're out door knocking or when you're calling, it's all going to be around knowing your numbers, right? Like how many contacts till so let's put it in door knocking. So just for the simplicity of this video, I'm just going to put it into perspective of knocking on doors because that is my primary lead source, right? So when I'm knocking on doors, okay, I know how many doors approximately I'm going to need to hit. And it's always different during different times of day, but I'm also adjusted to who's going to be home on certain times of the day, right? But on average, you should know how many doors you're going to hit versus how many people are going to open the doors, right? Now, for me, it's just above 2, right? Because I'll go in more effective. Like if you go in the afternoon, evenings, depending on the neighborhood, and I kind of have a good grasp of this around London area, which people are going to be home during certain demographics, but you should know how many doors you're going to need to hit. And sometimes you can go through like 20 doors and not hit anything. It obviously sucks, but your averages, right? So how many doors have you knocked? And you can track all this on an app called Harvest, right? So if you download the Harvest app, there's also Sales Rabbit, I believe, but that you need to pay for that. But if you're using an app like Harvest, you can see how many doors you knock versus how many conversations you're having. Okay, so basically, the average is about 1 out of every 3, right? So it's kind of like if you're calling 2, you call how many people are going to pick up out of your calls, right? It's all relevant, right? But for me, door knocking, it's just over 2. Like almost every other door is home, right? Now, that's not really, those are good for sure, good numbers, but at the end of the day, the realistic term is 1 out of every 3. So you got to know that, number one. Number two, you got to know out of those people you're actually talking to, how many are you actually converting into a lead, right? So this could be a matter of, are you getting their contact information? Have you set an appointment, right? For setting an appointment, it's going to take a lot more contacts when you're going door to door. At the same time, you're gonna want to know those numbers, right? So for me, when I'm out knocking on doors, to set an appointment directly at the door, it's 1 out of every 70 to 75 conversations for me to actually hit a straight up appointment, like a list selling appointment or a buying appointment, right? Now, for actually converting the lead to get my database, I'm just over 20%, right? So just about 1 out of every 4 people I can actually convert to get my database, right? So this means I'm getting their email, their phone number, or I'm getting one or the other, okay? So you want to know those numbers, right? Once you know all those numbers, you can tell how long you'll need to go to the door, and obviously as much door time as you can, right? The more people you talk to, or even when you're on the phones, the better. But understanding this is gonna be how you can business plan moving forward, so you know exactly how many people you need to talk to. Does that make sense? So you basically want to just know your numbers. Number one, when you're knocking, like how many people are gonna be answering, and then number two, how many are you actually converting, right? And then how many does it take to get an appointment, right? So when you know all those numbers, you can tell how long you're gonna need to be out for in order to actually find an appointment. Okay, so the other part of it too is going to be, what are you saying? Okay, so again, sticking to door knocking, what are you actually saying to the client or to the prospect? So whether it's all different, right? Now I'll just keep it short and sweet here. there's a lot of analysis paralysis, okay? And I don't get me wrong, I used to have it too. I used to get to the point where I thought I had to go into a neighborhood and have all this information loaded with me and be like, okay, there's got to be a sale here for me to actually go and tell the neighbors about it, right? I got to that point. I would get paralyzed in the morning, just being like, hey, I got to get this sale, this sale, this sale. At the end of the day, guys, as I've done it like I've knocked over 10,000 doors, like I'm right around 20,000 doors knocked right now. Basically, the easiest way I can say it is the more, again, it's all coming out of your scripts, like how often you script is going to be able to, you're going to practice and you're going to get better over time, right? This may not come off to someone who's new, right? It's standard to get analysis paralysis, but the best way to avoid it is just know that you just want to go and just spark a conversation, right? So if I'm going, for example, if I'm going to go knock around an expired door, I'm trying to be as efficient as possible to hit the expired listing. So what I'm going to do when I go to that door is not to that specific expired, but to that whole street, just so I can be efficient in what I'm doing. I'm going to just say something as simple as like, hey, my name's Miguel. I'm a realtor from around the area. You must be the homeowner. Great. Don't want to waste a lot of your time. The main reason I'm going to be real quick. Market's picking up for both buyers and sellers. Interest rates have been coming down, and there's a lot of activity on my listings as well. And my buyers are also winning this market. So I was just curious, do you have any plans to buy, list, or sell? Or buy or sell, right? So it can be, you can literally just make something off the top of your head, right? And your pitch doesn't have to be an exact script. Like you can just kind of piece it together, right? There's been other times where I've just been going and I'm just like, hey, just out here, there's a lot of different things going on in the market right now. A lot of people are a bit uncertain. At the same time, a lot of people are just looking for some guidance to help combat that when it comes to real estate. Just curious if you have any plans to buy, invest, or sell your own. You can make a script on the fly because do you want to know, regardless of what pitch you're using, do you want to know what's most important, guys? Actually breaking the ice. Because once you've broken the ice with that individual, then you just roll into motivational questions. Okay, don't worry about like, oh, am I using a circle prospecting script? I'm doing the expired script, right? Just break the ice, build rapport when you're at the door for sure, and just go from there, right? That way you're not paralyzed at the door. But again, it also comes down to, at the same time, what you're saying. It all comes down to the scripts you're doing, right? So do you know when to close? Do you know when to go to the next level of the script, right? Do you know which questions should be altered in the script, right? Like, don't go and be like, okay, hey, have you thought about selling? Oh, we've been thinking about it. Okay, so if I could show you numbers right now that made sense to you, would you consider selling? You don't want to go in for the kill right then and there, right? Because a simple matter of someone going like, oh yeah, I've been thinking about selling. Okay, great. The next question would be, awesome. So how long have you actually been living here for? And then just get to know them a bit and ask some motivational questions, which then will lead to a sign of, okay, yeah, blah, blah, and they're a bit more comfortable, open up. Okay, so just out of curiosity, if there's a way where we could run through some numbers and things actually made sense for you, would you be open to hearing me out on that, right? Whatever the close is going to be, whether you're going to go buy or sell. But the point is, what you're saying definitely matters, but it also doesn't, right? So what I'm trying to say is don't get paralyzed in knowing what script to use, because the more, it all comes down to practice, right? The more you practice, the more you're going to get better at it. Because for me, I can just go to a door and just come up with a script off the top of my head, a pitch, right? Because the pitch is something that's a bit more scripted. And then you can go to motivational questions, but just understand it can be as simple as just going to the door and just being like, hey, my name's Miguel, I'm a realtor from around the area. Market's doing a lot of different things right now. A lot of people are being uncertain, and at the same time, we're just looking for some guidance, right? This is just off the top of my head. It's not even an actual script, right? But that part is less important. What's important is actually knowing what to say in the script, right? Like where your questions are, and then leading to the close. Also, it comes down to knowing when to close too, right? There's some people who have no clue how to close. They just keep talking, but just know that when someone's open to it and they feel comfortable with you, just be like, hey, just curious, if you'd be interested in knowing what's going on in your neighborhood, if I could provide you with a monthly market update with some new listing sales. And we'll get into what I provide with these leads when I go into my lead capture strategy. But again, just know when to close and know what your scripts are, right? But again, don't get paralyzed with what script you got to use as well, right? It's just a matter of breaking the ice, and then your important part of the script is what's going to happen when you're asking motivational questions, okay? So again, what you're saying is definitely going to matter. It's a skill set. Just got to practice it. Then you'll see your conversion go high. So that what you're saying is going to tie into your numbers, right? So let's go on to number 3, lead capture. So this is kind of the main purpose I want to make this video, is because some people, I struggled with it a little bit too when I started, was, okay, how am I going to, follow up with some of these leads? Because truth is, someone would tell me, and since my pipeline was so small, they would tell me, yeah, we've been thinking about it, maybe in a year or two or whatever, right? And I would just call them once a month, like, hey, just curious if you've been thinking about selling, curious. you're not providing value that way, right? So it's important to understand where the client's at, right? And we're going to go into exactly how I categorize each seller, each buyer in my CRM, so I know exactly how to follow up with them, right? Because at the end of the day, what it boils down to, and it is hard as a new real estate agent to understand this, but what it all boils down to is that someone's going to hire you buying or selling based on how you make them feel. Like 95% of it is on how you make them feel. The other 5 is how you demonstrate, right? Like what you're saying to them. So basically, if you can just provide value for them, be in front of them, and just make sure that, because it comes to the point where they call you, right? When you're door knocking, it's rare that you call them like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, sure. Like I'll just do it, right? It's very rare. They're usually the ones to call you because you've been following up enough with them, right? That's how it works with door knocking for the majority of the part, or you just followed up with them at the right time, right? So let's go into how I categorize my leads. So I categorize it as the following: exchange database. So these are tags. So I use Command. It's a CRM for Keller Williams. So I use these tags to help categorize each individual. Exchange, long-term seller nurture, buyer nurture, warm lead, and hot lead. So how am I following up with each of these? So let's start with the coldest, which is going to be exchange. So exchange is someone who's maybe given me their email address. It's usually just people who just like only comfortable giving me their email address, and I just put them on my email strategy, and I just kind of let them go until they bounce back. And funny enough, I get about 3 of these people that call me every year at least. Like it's like this year has actually been 5. The year before was 3. I was a bit newer then, right? But this year I've had 5 people from just that email list that have called me, right? So basically, what do I do for my database, right? So everyone's going to get these emails, but as an exchange database member, they're going to get the following. So they're going to get a monthly neighborhood update, a monthly neighborhood nurture provided through Command. So whatever their neighborhood is, they're going to get an active search once a month for that. And then they're also going to get my Miguel's Monday Market Minutes. So my Monday Market Minutes, it's a newsletter that I write out over the designs in Command. So basically, I write out a market minute that basically, if you guys want some insight on my market minute, you can go back to my vlog of a 27-year-old Canadian realtor. It's like a few videos back. I have like a template, like I show the template of it, right? But basically, this Monday market minute starts with a picture of my dog and I from our Monday Runner photo. And then it's the last one I just did was when you're selling for sale by owner, right? Why you should, like some of the risks of selling for sale by owner. And then if you do decide to sell on your own, here are the top 10 ways to sell your home on your own. And then I say a close at the end. And then it's basically a long newsletter that provides value that I type out by hand. It usually takes me an hour and a half to finish these, but it provides people with great value and insight, right? And also has small bits and closes where people can reach out to me through those emails. My open rate on those lately has been over 60%, and I have a 600-person database. It's very, very effective. If you guys aren't doing a weekly newsletter, you need to be. But this provides excellent value for someone who I just don't speak with over the phone. The other person that may go into my exchange database is maybe I did get their phone and email, but I don't really feel the urge, just because it depends on, like, you know, my pipeline's fairly big, right? Like, I mean, if I felt like, okay, maybe this is someone that like has some interest, but maybe I don't feel the urge to really reach out to them. It depends on the individual. If I have a really good conversation, and we'll get into that, but if I have a really good conversation, then yes, I feel like if I call them and they'd be familiar with me because we hit it off so well at the door, then yes, I'll go ahead and call them. But for the exchange database, it's really someone who I have no sense of calling, or I just can't because they only give me their email. They're just going to go in the exchange, and then if they bounce back, that's great. If they don't, they might refer someone, or they're just going to be in there for a lifetime until they unsubscribe, right? So that's the exchange database. A long-term seller nurture is kind of similar to the seller nurture, but my long-term seller nurtures are the people that are planning to stay for a while, like for a long time, being like over 2 years out, right? So 2+ years is my long-term seller nurture. They're going to get the same email. And again, everyone gets these same email updates, but they get the same email updates, the Monday Market Minute, their monthly neighborhood nurture, but they're also going to get a quarterly phone call for me, right? So if it's someone I'm actually going to go ahead and call, it's going to be the long-term seller nurture, right? Now, I just keep these people in mind that they're going to be 2+ years out. I know I'll be touching base with these people for a while. These people, if I met them at the door, I've had a really good conversation with them. They have no immediate plans, no specified time frame, or their kids might not be moving out for another 5 years. Things can always change, right? So I'm going to be in touch with them on a quarterly basis. So they're going to be on a quarterly call plan. I'm going to call them every January with an I have a goal script. I'm going to call them every April for my April for my my spring sweep event, my clothing donation drive. I'm going to call them every July for a midway point, like my midway year goal. Like I just want to remind you of this goal. Who do you know at this time that can maybe use my help buying or selling? And then I call them again in October for my Thanksgiving event, right? Thanksgiving here in Canada is in October. So those are the 4 times in the year I call them, okay? Now, when we're talking about the seller nurtures, now my seller nurtures, not long-term seller nurture, my seller nurtures, these people are 2 years, between 2 to 6 months. 2 years to about 6 months max. So these people I'm staying in front of on a frequent basis. I'm still, depending, like if they're a year or less, I'm trying to give them a monthly call plan. But if they are, on the seller nurture, they're still getting a quarterly, right? It's the exact same follow-up structure as a long-term nurture. Now, some people might be surprised. It's like, okay, well, they seem like they've been closer, because a lot of the time when people tell you 2 years, it's usually a year, right? Usually cut it in half. Now, that's not necessarily the case with these people, because sometimes their plans change, either for the long haul or for the short haul. But at the end of the day, I'm doing enough to stay in front of them, because I'm hitting them by email once a month and once a week. On top of that, they're also hearing from me 4 times a year, right? Text, call, or voicemail, depending on what they're using. But yeah, my seller nurture ties in very similar. But when I tag them as seller nurture, I know they have some plans within the next 2 years. They've told me specifically they have some plans in the next 2 years, and based on some motivational questions I asked them, it definitely makes sense that they are going to move. I definitely understand that they're going to be moving pretty soon. Okay, so that's the seller nurture and the long-term seller nurture. Again, very similar, but the other one just gives you a bit more urgency, and you can maybe move them to the next category, which is the warm lead, right? Depending on where they're at. But the warm lead is going to be a bit more of an aggressive follow-up. So once we get to the warm and the hot lead, my monthly neighborhood update switches to a bi-weekly neighborhood update, right? So they're going to get a bi-weekly neighborhood update plus my Miguel's Monday Market Minute. On top of that, they're going to get a phone call at the first of every month, right? Either that, or depending when I met them, just every single month, right? Like at 30 days, rotation of every 30 days, you can set them in command, right? So I call them just to say, hey, just touching base. Because with seller nurture long term, I already said how I'm calling these people. But when they get to a warm or hot lead, I'm now directing my conversation more towards a aggressive approach of like, hey, just touching base, see if you need anything right now, right? Like, so basically when I'm calling these people, again, I just told you how both the hot lead and the warm lead are getting that follow-up, the email follow-up plan of the bi-weekly market update and the Monday Market Minute. They're already covered on that aspect. One thing I didn't mention, actually, for long-term seller nurture and exchange, they also get direct mail. So they're going to get 4 pieces of mail. I completely forgot about this, but they get 4 pieces of mail throughout the year. They're going to get in January, it's exactly the same as my call. In January, they're going to get my year in review, right? They're going to get on April my event invite, and July they're going to get a mid-year review, and then in October, well, September, it gets mailed a little bit earlier. They're going to get the pie event, the Thanksgiving event, right? So I completely forgot to bring that up, but yes, you should have as long as you can afford it, you should have a direct mail system where maybe your sister or yourself just mail that out 4 times a year, right? So I don't have those templates on me, I believe, but basically in your year in review letters, you just say, okay, you kind of just say, hey, this is a great year. Next subheading would be like the numbers you did with like a collage of all the homes you sold. Next one would be how you gave back to the community, events you had, and then your forecast for the year ahead. That's usually what I include in my market newsletters. If you guys go to the Glover U group on Facebook, the Inner Circle, if you type in year in review newsletter, the Holly and I forget the other individual's name, but they have that template. That's where I got mine initially. So yeah, if you guys want a template for that, go to the Glover U Inner Circle on Facebook. But that's exactly what I use, is that template you'll find on there. It's called a year in review letter. If you type it in on there, you'll find it. So, but yes, I completely forgot to mention that everyone in these categories will receive those 4 direct mails per the year, regardless of which category they're in, right? So let's go back to warm lead and hot lead. So the warm lead, like I said, we already covered how the warm and hot leads get their emails. The warm lead, I touch base with them once a month. Usually it's the first of the month, but depending on when I met them again, it might just be that 30-day rotation, right? So if I met them on the 14th, every 14th, I'm going to reach out to them. Okay, so the warm lead, basically what I'm saying is like, hey, just touching base, just checking in, or I might update them on a sale that happened in their area. My main goal is just be in front of them, right? So that way they're ready to call me when I'm ready, whenever they are ready, or if I call them at a good time, it's like bread and butter. I'm just like, yep, let's go in, we'll do the meeting, right? Hot lead. So the hot lead is the hottest of the hot. So they're 90 days or less. So hot lead is 90 days or less. If they've explicitly told you that they're going to be selling in 90 days or less, you put them in this category, right? You tag them on command as hot lead. You keep an eye on them. Okay, you need to keep a hot minute eye on the hot leads, right? And I convert pretty much everyone in the hot lead because I keep a good eye on them, and I'm not usually competing with them too often because I'm always in front of them. Hot lead every single Friday. Every Friday, guys, I am on top of my hot leads. So I have a list on my command. Call this person, like all my hot leads, call this person, this person, this person. Every Friday, they hear from me. I have a listing up right now. It's over on 59 Tanner Drive. Depending on when you're watching this, unless it's sold, you'll see it on Realtor. That listing, I was for 90 days, for 90 days, every Friday, I texted him. And when he brought me in, he said, my wife was very impressed with how you stuck to your word of staying every Friday. Because I'll tell my hot leads, you're going to hear from me every single Friday, right? Now, sometimes if there's going to be interviewing within the week, I'll hit them every single day, right? Depending, it's not common, but again, the general rule of thumb with my hot leads, 90 days or less, every single Friday they hear from me. And I tell them that up front because when they do bring me in, I've stuck to my promise and they understand that my communication standards are very high. And that's what people are looking for. That's the value people are looking for. Okay, guys, so that's pretty much it for today. I believe there was one more thing I wanted to go over with the database selection here, but maybe not. Yeah, I can't really think of anything, but I feel like I've covered enough here. Thank you guys so much for watching this. It was a bit longer, 20 minutes. But again, the biggest part of this this video was to really just go over your capture, right? When you do get them, how do you go about it, right? But it also made sense since we were on the top of conversion to touch base on actually knowing your numbers and converting the leads so you can best benefit yourself. Again, converting prospects into leads, it all just comes down to practicing and getting out there. That's it. So I hope you guys like that, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.